In this story, a bum who has lived his life in the most miserable way is reincarnated into a world of swordplay, magic, monsters, and demon breeds. Rudeas sees his reincarnation as a second chance at life, and he plans to live his best one. From infancy, Rudeas shows tremendous control over his abilities and mana and is also a fast learner. When Zenith and Paul notice their son's intellect, they hire Roxy as his master, and after his training, Rudeas aims to attend the University of Magic with his friend, Sylphiette. Unfortunately, Paul says he is unable to pay double tuition, and Rudeas ends up traveling with his parents' adventurer friend, Ghislaine, so he can work and earn tuition fees. When Rudeas officially meets the family he is to work for, he finds out every one of them has some piece of nuthead, especially the daughter he is assigned to teach. While Rudeas trains Eris over the years, she becomes stronger and nicer. But then again, one day, tremendous mana swirls around the skies, and its blast deals devastating results to the kingdom. The mana blast caused a series of deaths and destruction, while others ended up missing. When Rudeas and Eris find themselves on the demon continent after the mana blast, they journey with Ruigerd, a demon breed from the most feared demon clan. Ruigerd's goal is to prove his clan's innocence against the ancient accusation and also return the kids to their home. Episode 1. Years later, without any introduction, a grown Rudeas travels on a carriage wearing a cloak. It's also evident that time and experience have changed him over the years. Firstly, he's no longer on the demon continent. Secondly, he's not traveling with Eris and Ruigerd anymore. Thirdly, his facial expression throughout shows extreme sadness. On the same carriage are two traveling girls, Suzanne and Sarah. Suzanne, the outgoing girl, notices Rudeas' bad mood and tries to cheer him up with a conversation, while Sarah is not a bit interested. All Rudeas tells them is that he is on his way to the north in search of his mother, who was a victim of the mass teleportation during the huge mana blast. In return, Suzanne gives him directions. She informs him that the north is not properly funded. However, 3 regions stand out. The Kingdom of Renoa, which has a University of Magic and excels at training mages, Duchy of Neris, which produces magical implements, and Duchy of Basharance, which excels in arcane research and is also where the carriage is heading. When Rudeas arrives at his location, he chooses not to dwell on the heartbreak from Eris. Instead, he heads out to disband the party he created with Ruigerd and Eris. Not just that, he's also eager to take on reckless jobs alone, even when everyone in the guild can clearly see he's just a kid. Just then, Susanna arrives and invites him to join their party, even when Rudeas says he wants to work alone. As the party goes on their first task, Rudeas is introduced to the other members, including Sarah, who makes it clear that she doesn't like Rudeas. Yet, despite Sarah's hate, all Rudeas sees in Sarah are similarities with Eris, who was also very arrogant toward him. When it's time for battle, the task that seemed like a piece of cake soon turns into a deadly one when unexpected monsters arrive at the scene. At this point, Rudeas says, "To hell with this," and freezes, so the monster rips him apart. Luckily, Suzanne blocks the attack, and her party stays to fight, ignoring the fact they can escape while he gets eaten. For the first time in a while, Rudeas experiences the thrill of being in battle and what it means to stand and fight. At the point where all hope is lost, Rudeas unleashes devastating fire magic that destroys his opponent in one go. Afterward, Rudeas is reminded of his goal when he was reincarnated and promises to live on despite losing everything. Also, Sarah acknowledges Rudeas after witnessing his power during the fight. Episode 2. Months later, Rudeas' goal doesn't change. He plans to make himself well known, hoping news about him eventually reaches his mother, Zenith. Apparently, he already has a reputation among adventurers and the townspeople, and he even goes by the popular nickname Quagmire. While he goes about his day, Sarah invites him on a mission to the first place where the human-demon war occurred. Their task is to gather snowdrake scales around the area. But then again, what's an adventurer's task if they don't get attacked by monsters? While the fight happens, 2 adventurer parties get into a brawl after a misunderstanding with their respective tasks. Luckily, it is settled, and Sol, the arrogant leader from the other party, apologizes. When the group gathers around to celebrate, Rudeas is invited to join them this time around. They also bump into a drunk Sol. He apologizes for a second time, but not without throwing shots at Quagmire, whom he describes as someone running away from his problems. What annoys Sol even more is that Rudeas refuses to use his potential to go after the big guns and jobs. Moreover, the next time he meets Suzanne's party, They tell him that Mimir is dead and Sarah went missing on a mission. The next thing Rudeas does is head out and search for Sarah in the harsh weather, which he finds in the custody of a monster tree. After rescuing her, he washes her, heals her, and takes her back to her party. They all show appreciation for saving Sarah, especially Sarah herself. However, Rudeas confesses it's the other way around. Before they met, he considered ending his life, but not anymore. Episode 3. As time goes by, Rudeas is evidently seen outside and at Suzanne's party. Additionally, Sarah and him have gotten closer. She is so close that she asks him to follow her to check for a new dagger in town. In Rudeas' words, this is what they call a date in his world. Afterward, both of them end up in a tavern, where Sarah gets herself tipsy because of the drinks. Rudeas considers his home training. Meanwhile, Sarah keeps sending him deadly signals. Suddenly, they end up naked in Rudeas' room. But when it's time for Rudeas to work his way inside the glory hole, he chickens out because he can't get Junior up. Sarah leaves disappointed and also makes it clear that she has no attraction for him and just wants to repay the debt of saving her. Later on, Rudeas drinks himself to piss and takes it out on Sol. He also reveals to Sol that the reason he chickened out was because Eris left him after their first nighttime escapade. Now, poor Rudeas can't shake the feeling that he's horrible in bed. In a sort of good way, Sol offers help by setting Rudeas up with Elise in a brothel. Unfortunately, Elise's endowed body doesn't help either. Afterward, Sol figures it's an emotional problem and suggests that Rudeas needs someone he loves. But then again, in a fit of drunkenness, Rudeas rants about how Sarah has the body of a child compared to Elise's. Word gets out to Sarah, who was standing behind all along, and she gives Rudeas a huge slap before leaving. Now that there's no way back from this, Sol invites Rudeas to join their party. Episode 4. Now in the Duchy of Nebris with Sol's party, Rudeas' plan remains the same, to build a reputation till word gets to his mother, and his first task, where he single-handedly slays a dragon, does the trick. He also worships Roxy's underwear he sneaked when he was young. One day, he is visited by Elanalise, his father's old companion, and his master's friend, Paul and Roxy, respectively. Elanalise not only shows dead interest in Rudeas' built body, but she also reveals information about Zenith's whereabouts. Before heading for Zenith's location, which is a year's journey, Rudeas decides to settle in this town until after winter. Over time, he notices that Elanalise is incredibly slutty and a woman who can pull any man into her bed. Even Sol gets a bit of the action. Later, Rudeas receives an invitation from Genius, the vice principal of the University of Magic in Renoa. Rudeas' fame has spread so far that he is invited as a special student, one who doesn't pay tuition. Considering his initial plan was to earn money and study at the University of Magic with his friend Sophiette, he takes on the offer after being convinced by the Man God. The Man God informs Rudeas that his potency will be restored in Renoa, and his mission is to find out why the Mana Blast hit his hometown years ago. Episode 5. When Rudeas arrives at Renoa with Elanalise, the first thing Genius indulges him in is a test, which he single-handedly wins against Fitz after casting Interruption Magic. Being a special student, Rudeas is not only exempt from paying tuition, but he gets to choose which class to attend. The only condition given to him is that attendance during homeroom is a must. There, the opening ceremony is led by the student council, revealing Princess Ariel as its president, alongside Fitz and Luke. He also meets special students in his class, his former students Zenoba, Linnea, Persena, and Cliff. He finds out that Fitz and Luke are Princess Ariel's bodyguards after she lost succession to the throne. Also, Luke is revealed to be cousins with Rudeas, but from higher succession in their family. Later on, Rudeas gets into a scandal when Princess Ariel's underwear unexpectedly falls into his hand. Luckily, Fitz arrives to save him and declare him innocent, even though it's something Rudeas would do unprovoked. Episode 6. With time, Rudeas adjusts to the school system and has created a schedule that makes time for his ultimate goal, to figure out why the Mana Blast hit his home. Meanwhile, Elanalise adjusts to the school by continuing her dirty acts on campus. As time goes on, Rudeas gets closer to Fitz, even when he can't explain it because Fitz is clearly a boy. Rudeas also uses his spare time to teach Zenoba the act of sculpting with magic. Seeing that Zenoba is hopeless in this skill, Rudeas and Fitz accompany him to get a young slave he can train to do sculpting on his behalf. Episode 7. Meanwhile, it is revealed that Fitz is a girl, and actually Rudeas' childhood friend, Sylphiette. Rudeas can't recognize her because she's grown, has a new hair color, and always closes her eyes. On another side of campus, Rudeas continuously trains a young slave, Juliet. Then one fine day, Rudeas finds out that Linnea and Persena broke Roxy's sculpture he left in Zenoba's care. To exact revenge, Rudeas confines the girls and comes up with a plan to make them suffer, all with Fitz's help. In the end, the girls escape under Fitz's watch, and while she converses with Rudeas, she almost reveals her face to him but hesitates because of her oath to Princess Ariel. Episode 8. Soon, it's evident to Rudeas that Cliff doesn't like him. What's more shocking is that he seeks Rudeas' help to court a girl he likes, revealed to be the slutty and shameless Alina Lise. Rudeas does introduce them after taking advice from Fitz. If they work out or don't, that's left for them to decide. Yet, to Rudeas' greatest surprise, the next time he sees Cliff and Alina Lise, they are all loved up as a couple. Alina Lise promises to keep her curse that makes her change men like bedsheets under wraps. Cliff also promises to help her with it. Before the week runs out, Rudeas has to face many challengers who fight for Linnea and Persena's hand in marriage, and among them is a formidable opponent, Demon King Batty. Episode 9. As time goes by, Fitz becomes evidently sad that Rudeas hasn't recognized her. Princess Ariel also notices this. As Rudeas indulges in his study of the Mana Blast, his search leads him to find a student who can aid him, who is revealed to be a special student called 7 Star. However, the first glance at 7 Star makes Rudeas extremely frightened. When she removes the mask, 7 Star is revealed to be from the same world as Rudeas' former life, as a Japanese. Rudeas also recognizes her as the victim girl who was hit by the same truck that ended his life. It turns out Rudeas was reincarnated, and 7 Star was teleported to this world by summoning. She reveals that her study is based on learning to summon with magic circles because she's looking for a way home. Additionally, she was teleported 5 years ago, doesn't age, and possesses no mana, unlike Rudeas, and she suspects her research probably led to a large mana blast years ago. Probably. With this, Rudeas and 7 Star strike a deal. While Rudeas helps 7 Star with building her mana, she teaches him all he needs to know about teleportation and summoning magic. Episode 10. Soon, a year passes since Rudeas' time at the academy. The reputation he is no longer after is still intact when news about his victory against Demon King Batty spreads all over the school. He trains with Juliet in the act of sculpting, practices with 7 Star, and uses his spare time to read books on summoning. Meanwhile, Fitz ponders whether she should come clean to Rudeas after noticing his recent closeness to 7 Star and the other girls on campus. One day, Fitz blatantly avoids Rudeas in public, and this makes Rudeas worry that he might have fallen in love with a man. Asking Genius about Fitz's gender doesn't help either. The man seems to be under pressure to hide what Rudeas believes is the truth. Everything becomes clear when Fitz accidentally falls over Rudeas one day in the library. Rudeas not only figures that Fitz is a girl, but his junior rises in the morning at the mere contact with Fitz. Rudeas finally sees that the man god was right. His erectile dysfunction can be cured here. Episode 11. Now that Rudeas has figured out that Fitz is a girl, Luke makes sure that he doesn't expose the secret. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Luke and Ariel urge Fitz to reveal her identity as Sylphiette to her childhood friend, Rudeas. As planned, Fitz gets Rudeas to travel with her, far into the forest, where they can be alone. Also, according to plan, Fitz uses her power to make it rain, so both of them find shelter in a cave. Rudeas, being a 30-year-old stuck in a child's body, knows where all this heads and decides to play along. Fitz, who is initially hesitant, finally tells Rudeas to pull every piece of clothing from her body. This was merely a reaction of a childhood memory. After taking off her glasses, Rudeas finally recognizes his close childhood friend, Sylphiette. Episode 12. Both of them express their feelings for each other, but when it's time to do the sacred acts, Rudeas finds his junior falling from Mount Everest. He apologizes for this embarrassing moment, and the two of them spend the rest of the night talking about how they coped after the Mana Blast. Back then, the Mana Blast teleported Sylphiette to the Royal Kingdom, where she met Princess Ariel. She confesses to him that all she could think of was how to work hard and become someone suitable for Rudeas. After their night in the forest, Fitz is evidently happy when she reports this progress to Ariel and Luke. With this course, Luke provides a priceless aphrodisiac that is a cure for Rudeas' problem. That evening, Fitz initiates a meeting with Rudeas in his dorm, and after taking Luke's special treat, both of them are unable to control themselves, and they end up wrapped under sheets doing the forbidden act. Bad kids. When Rudeas wakes up the next morning, he finds out that Fitz is gone and is left with stained sheets, proving her innocence. This breaks Rudeas badly. He thinks it's a second version of what Eris did to him and how she left him after their first night together. Fortunately, when Fitz walks through the door, Rudeas holds on to her forever and thanks her for curing him. As an expression of appreciation to Ariel and Luke, he submits to an alliance with them and wishes to marry Sylphiette. In response, Ariel hereby releases Fitz to act as her real self as Sylphiette and Rudeas' wife-to-be. This brings us to the end of this recap, and I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel for more videos if you had a great time. See you next time.